The time is just gone 8:27 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast this morning, and this is the third day of the reopening of the inquest into the death of the late Imam Abdullah Haron. And what we saw yesterday was an explanation on the falling down steps, which obviously the Harun family had rejected as an explanation, and this was common during the apartheid era, and this was the police version of the injuries that were sustained during the fall of Imam Harun. But an expert witness was called in, and we are now talking with Aeronautics Engineer Thivash Moodley. Thivash, good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Wadi.
Yes, wonderful you're able to join us this morning. Now, Thivash, clearly there was a police version, but also you being called in as an expert witness in this reopening of the inquest into the death of the late Imam Abdullah Haron. What had actually happened, during your testimony and the scientific explanation that you had given?
Well, we started a few years ago. It's a pity that this case took so long to actually get to court, but we started in 2019. We started with reviewing all the inquest documents. We then did a site visit to both the Caledon Police Station and Maitland Police Station, where we analyzed the entire architecture of the building, the stair construction, the stair structure, the location of the holding cells, the location of the interrogation rooms. And when we put that together, fortunately, there were some people that were held in detention at the same time. They managed to fit some of the pieces together. But most of the investigation was based on the evidence of the two security police officers, which was Major Gennis and Sergeant Van Wyk. Both gave similar versions of the alleged fall. People don't believe it actually happened, but what we analyzed was their account of the alleged fall, and both basically say that when he was descending the third set of stairs, he lost his footing and basically fell backwards and slid on his back a few stairs, but did not get to the bottom of the stairs. That particular flight of stairs was approximately 2 meters long and about 1.7 meters high. And if you know the dimensions of the late Imam, he was about 1.7 meters high himself and quite slender in build, 64 kgs. And we then looked at the situation and realized that had he fallen, as they mentioned, he lost his footing, fell backwards, and slid. Person being 1.7 meters high wouldn't have slid that much if he didn't reach the bottom of the stairs and he was still 2 or 3 stairs away from the bottom. I mean, you're talking about 10 meters in total, 10 stairs in total, and the man is 1.7 meters. So we believe that he may have fallen almost on the same spot. And if he slid, he may have slid only 1 or 2 stairs. So taking that into consideration, we looked at, his walking position, walking forward, and basically from walking forward, he trips or he slips with his feet and he falls backwards. What would happen to his body in that situation? So there could be 2 things. One, he could have fallen uncontrollably, where he didn't grab onto anything, or he lost his balance completely and just fell, bottom first, like losing your feet under you, basically. Or in another situation, he could have fallen in a controlled environment where he broke his fall by putting his hands down or clutching onto the rails. And we considered both those situations, and we did our analysis on that. And we found that, given that there was no injuries on his buttocks, on his lower back, on his upper back, on his neck, his head, on his hands, it was probably very unlikely that he fell in an uncontrolled manner, since he had no injuries on those parts of his body. If he fell in a controlled manner, then it's a different story. We would expect no injuries. The other major part in this whole evidence given by the two security police branch officers was that the Major Hennis asked him, and it's on record that, did you get hurt? And his immediate reply was, I did not get hurt, but I just got a fright. So that tells you that, if a person doesn't get hurt after that sort of situation, there's unlikely going to be any markings on his body. But you probably read in the media and you saw in the evidence given over the past few days, he had several bruises, bashes all across his body in very various different places between his legs, on his chest, ribs, that sort of stuff. So, taking all that into consideration, you didn't need to do much of a detailed mathematical analysis. All we did was we looked at, if he fell from this height, what was his change from potential energy to kinetic energy, and when he hit the ground, what was the speed he hit the ground at? And when we determined that, we determined, if he fell in a controlled manner, his buttocks would have hit the ground at about 3.5 meters per second, and that's sufficient speed to sustain some sort of injury. And if he fell in an uncontrolled way, his head would have hit the stairs at about 4.5 meters per second, and there he would have definitely sustained some sort of injury. So he could have sustained injuries on his head and on his back, but fortunately, he didn't receive any injuries on those parts of his body. So I think that was the crux of the whole exercise we did. And to be honest with you, this could have been done back in those days, but there was never a vested interest to look at things from this perspective.
Well, now that there is a vested interest, and obviously from what you have described, Thivash, is it does raise question marks on the credibility of the police version, and I'm sure that the inquest will take into account what you have just described.
Yeah, I think, I've been involved in a few inquests. This particular judge, I just can't get his name now, but I think it's all over the media. He is extremely passionate about this case, extremely involved, and he's actually really analyzing everything in detail. I was surprised at how well he understood and how detailed he knew my report. Normally, judges would read over it and ask you to explain certain things. He basically gave me his explanation of what he thought, and I had to correct him whether he actually interpreted it correctly or not. And I was taken back by that. So I think, even though it's many years later, uh, I believe that the Imam will have the best defense he can have, and I think the whole matter is going to be heard very professionally, and I think the right outcome will be presented to the public and to his family, most of all.
Well, I'm certain we certainly will follow developments. And by the way, the High Court judge is Daniel Tulari, and
Yes, that's
yes. But for now, Tivash, thank you, and we do appreciate you taking time out, talking to us, and obviously providing us with the update and unpacking, your part of the testimony and the evidence that you had given into this inquest. And we thank you. We wish you well, and have yourself a wonderful day ahead.
No, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. I know it was short notice and it happened very quickly, but I hope I helped your listeners a little bit understand the matter more.
Well, you certainly have added a lot of value to myself and to our listeners, our viewers this morning. And once again, we wish you well and take care.
Thank you very much. Take care. Ciao. Bye.
Thivash Moodley joining us this morning, expert witness, aeronautics engineer into the inquest of the falling down the stairs as per the police version of the late Imam Abdullah Haron. The time is just gone 8:37 a.m. We come back, we'll be joined by Qari Ziad Patel.